This video shows you how to align the blade to the table for your SawStop Jobsite saw. The following procedure applies to both the Jobsite saw and the Jobsite Saw Pro. For this video, I'll refer to both saws generically as the Jobsite saw. For accurate cuts, the blade and miter slots should be parallel, within a certain tolerance. In addition to cross cuts that you make with the miter gauge, alignment is also important for rip cuts since the fence is aligned to the miter slot, which in turn is also referenced by the blade. The tolerance limit for the alignment is 0.010 of an inch. This is the difference in runout between a tooth as measured when at the rear of the blade and that same tooth as measured when at the front of the blade. If your Jobsite saw is within that tolerance, that's great. There's nothing to be gained by working through the alignment process. Further, if you're happy with the precision of the cuts for the particular work you're doing, again, there's no value in adjusting the blade alignment. If outside that tolerance or you are not satisfied with the precision of the cuts, use the following procedure to correct the alignment. To begin, turn off the saw and remove the lockout key. And unplug the saw. Remove the insert and blade guard, or riving knife. Set the blade to maximum elevation. Set the tilt to 0. Install a new and clean blade. Do not use a painted blade. Make sure the right-hand miter slot is free of debris. Mark one of the teeth. Loosen the locking knob on the combination square and adjust the blade, or ruler, so that you begin with the end of the ruler well away from the tooth. I'll refer to the blade of the combination square as ruler to avoid confusion with the saw blade. Place the combination square in the miter slot at the back of the blade. Rotate the blade until the marked tooth aligns with the end of the ruler. Hold the anvil firmly against the side of the miter slot, and then slide the ruler so that it lightly touches the side of the marked tooth. Use a light touch on the ruler so you don't deflect the blade. Tighten the locking knob. After all that, make sure the end of the ruler is still resting lightly against the side of the tooth. Next, move the combination square to the front of the blade and rotate the blade so the marked tooth aligns with the end of the ruler once again. Visually check for a gap between the tooth and the end of the ruler, again holding the square firmly. If there is a gap, this means the blade has pivoted clockwise with respect to the table when looking at the table from above. The rotation in this illustration is exaggerated for clarity. Use the feeler gauges to measure the gap. If more than 0.010 of an inch, the adjustment steps follow shortly. If 0.010 of an inch or less, you're good to go and no further work is required. If misalignment forces the combination square away from the miter slot, or if the end of the ruler bumps into the front of the tooth or the face of the tooth, this means the blade has pivoted counterclockwise. Again, keep in mind that the misalignment shown here is greatly exaggerated. In this particular example, the blade is out of alignment clockwise, with a gap when the combination square is at the front of the blade. In this case, you'd turn the arbor alignment screw counterclockwise to pivot the blade counterclockwise. For the Jobsite saw, the table is fixed to the cabinet, and the alignment mechanism pivots the blade relative to the table. The alignment screw is threaded through the alignment block, which is constrained against the trunnion. The screw, in conjunction with the lock nut, forces the arbor block and the elevation carriage to pivot on the elevation shaft. To provide access to the alignment screw, you'll need to remove the blade. Remove the blade. Use the 10mm wrench to loosen the lock nut. Only loosen the lock nut just enough to allow the alignment screw to turn. Basically, you're just barely unseating the lock nut from the arbor block. Turn the alignment screw counterclockwise as looking from the right side of the saw. Here I'm using a shorter wrench so that it fits from side to side within the dust shroud. This permits a continuous turn without having to remove and reset the wrench for each turn. This should make it a little easier to track how much you've turned the wrench. To give a general idea of how much to turn the screw, a full turn yields approximately 40/1000 of an inch deflection at the front of the blade. In other words, if the gap were 20/1000 of an inch, you would turn the screw approximately just 1/4 turn to bring the gap under 10/1000. 1/2 turn would bring it close to 0. If you look closely, you can also visually observe the arbor moving as you turn the alignment screw. After turning the alignment screw a calculated amount, install the blade and then check the alignment. If there is a gap, measure with the feeler gauges. If within tolerance, you're good to go, and you only need to tighten the lock nut to finish the alignment process. If still outside the tolerance, turn the alignment screw once again. Typically, you should only need small rotations of the screw. If the blade is misaligned in the other direction, that is, the blade pushes the combination square away from the miter slot, or the end of the ruler bumps into the front of the tooth or the front face of the tooth, the blade is pivoted counterclockwise, and you would need to turn the alignment screw clockwise to pivot the blade clockwise back into alignment. Once you're satisfied with the alignment, tighten the lock nut. Finally, confirm the alignment is still within tolerance after tightening the lock nut. So that's it for the alignment procedure. Now you can perform the final steps to prepare the saw for operation. Install the blade guard, or riving knife. Install the insert. Plug in the saw. Install the lockout key. You have learned how to align the blade to the table for your SawStop Jobsite Saw or Jobsite Saw Pro. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, contact SawStop Service.